Hey there, it's Zach at Feel Free to Argue. I've got some more tales of the U.S. occupation of Iraq for you. Got two tales for you today. The first one is a farce, and the second one is a tragedy. And both of them help to, I think, demonstrate just how wrong our whole policy in Iraq is going. Now, the first one relates to the recent dust-up between the Mahdi army and the government, our puppet government in Iraq. You'll remember this from just a few weeks ago, back around the end of March. A lot of people heard about this, heard there was a conflict, even the kind of unsavory aspect at the very end about Iran coming in and negotiating the settlement by which the Mahdi army once again returned to the ceasefire that they had declared last August, which, by the way, is one of the main reasons for the success of the surge. But aside from that, what was very underreported in the U.S. media, in fact, I had a hard time finding any mention of it at all, was the actual initiating incident, the thing that started it all. And this, I think, was actually the most interesting part of all, because it shows how little authority our puppet government has. This is from the Inner Press Service on April 2nd of this year. Mahdi army militias controlled all Shia and mixed parts of Baghdad in no time, a Baghdad police colonel, speaking on condition of anonymity, told IPS. Iraqi army and police forces, as well as Badr and Dawa militias, suddenly disappeared from the streets, leaving their armored vehicles for Mahdi militiamen to drive around in joyful convoys that toured many parts of Baghdad before taking them to their stronghold of Sadr City in the east of Baghdad. Okay, well, this is kind of an interesting story, but why is it important? Well, the Dawa party is the party of our installed head of Iraq, which is Maliki. Maliki is a member of the Dawa party, and so the people who were shrinking away and letting the Mahdi army take these armored personnel carriers and other stuff were people who were supposed to be the most loyal people to the government. Also, that was mentioned, members of the Badr Brigade. The Badr Brigade is the rival Shia group that is against, supposedly, the Mahdi army. So, what you have here is a situation in which the two groups that were supposed to be most loyal to our puppet government abandoned their posts so that the enemy could take all of these supplies that U.S. taxpayers had paid for and that had been given to Iraq for their new military and their new police force, and now these things are all in the hands of the Mahdi army. So, how bad is this? This failure takes Iraq to point zero and even worse. Brigadier General Qatham Alwan of the Iraqi army told IPS in Baghdad, "We must admit that the formation of our forces was wrong, as we saw how our officers deserted their posts, leaving their vehicles for militias." Alwan added, "Not a single unit," let me repeat that, "not a single unit of our army and police stood for their duty in Baghdad, leaving us wondering what to do. Most of the officers who left their posts were members of Badr brigades and the Dawa party, who should have been most faithful to Maliki's government." All right. That's the farce part. Now let's examine one of the tragedies of the Iraq occupation. This is a small one. This takes place in November of 2003, very early in the U.S. occupation of Iraq. There was a family, extended family, sitting down to break their fast after Ramadan. And just as they were sitting down, all of these U.S. soldiers burst into doors on opposite sides of the room. All the men have their hands roped behind them. All the women and men are taken outside. The men are put face down in the mud, hands tied behind them, and the women and children are put up against a wall in full view of the men. Now the U.S. soldiers go back inside the building. At one point, some of these soldiers run in opposite sides of the same room, surprise one another, and shoot one another. So, a few minutes later, one of these soldiers, who has been shot by his own countrymen, stumbles out of the building, bleeding. The guy who is guarding the men, who, remember, have their hands tied and are face down in the ground in front of their wives and children, he sees his buddy who's gotten shot, and without asking, how it happened or anything like that, he shoots all the men in the back as they're there on the ground in front of their wives, in front of their children. Now, of course, there are people out there who are saying, well, it's an occupation. It's going to be messy. What did these people do? Why were the troops even there? Well, let's have a look. I'll read straight from the book at this point. The day after the massacre, some GIs had returned to apologize to the family. They had come to tell the remaining members of the family that they had been given wrong information and attacked the wrong home. The soldiers presented the grieving family with a cake. So much for U.S. soldiers winning hearts and minds of Iraqis. And later on, just in case you're wondering whether this is all true or not, you can look it up in the U.S. Army records, because we did compensate the family for the death of all of the men at a little bit less than $500 per person. So what am I saying with this? Am I saying that all U.S. soldiers are hooligans? That this kind of thing happens all the time? Well, yes, I am saying that this kind of thing happens all the time, but I'm not going to say that all U.S. troops are hooligans. But what I am saying is this kind of thing will continue to happen. It's going to happen all the time. Not because we're evil or anything like that. That's just what's going to happen in this kind of situation. When we are the unlawful occupiers of a country that doesn't want us there, and where all the people hate us. There's going to be tension. There's going to be mistakes. And there's no reason for any of this to happen, because there's no reason for us to be there in the first place.